Yirei Hashem. So should the person say a brachas, Yirei does the person Hashem say brachas? Who Yirei Hashem says brachas, Ki Chay b'Gematria 100. Also, one of the others is, we say, every day in davening we say, Menachem Mendel Schneerson, give thanks to Hashem, give praise, Menachem Mendel Schneerson. Also, from all these we see proof that the thing is to say 100 brachas. Again, as I said, it's a very important, very big chiddush, the words of the Shiva Kodesh. Purposely, Menachem, the Lord says also, the Atzik Kavona, we have a study Kavona. Don't try to increase or multiply the number, do it without Kavona, and listen. As a Shem Brachas of Torah, because we know how the Klal always takes it out, they're not to say it, they're not to say it. Try to say the Kavona, and those things are admissible, but we should strive for them very much. Listen carefully to Brachas. Wow, any bracha you listen to, there is the possibility to get credit for that bracha. First, we should try very hard to not very clear Torah, not to especially listen to the brachas without being mafsik, and surely get the credit for that. Brachas, person can actually be brachas to the quick brachas, first one. So it says, Kiruv for Yirei through these quick brachas, say brachas, a person requires Yirat Hashem, you see, he came to Yirei Hashem. Yirei Hashem, for the seventh, the Yirei Hashem becomes requires Yerushalmi. It should be Zechet to the Yirei Hashem, the image, the Yaakov, or the Yirah, that's supposed to be Zechet, the sea, the Torah, the image, Aharon, the esteemed, tzadik, After we complete the name of Musaf, there's one halacha which is the same 7 days a week. Of course, Shabbos should be an increase, but there is never a time without this halacha. It says, as explained in Shilat Kodesh, Haiches the words Emes ve'emunah. Emes is Tzeidat Beisha, and is Knei. Emunah is Masa Matan Emunah. During the week, a person is not supposed to leave the shul. Daven in the morning, you daven with a minyan, actually, tefillah b'tzibur. You don't daven tefillah b'tzibur, and the tefillah itself is rejected in heaven. Hashem despises the tefillah of a person who davens b'yachidus. Ein kel kabe lo yimos. Hashem does not despise. Hashem likes, accepts the tefillah of a tzibur. The Kodesh says, therefore, the person who davens b'yachidus, Hashem despises his tefillah because that person is a Baal Gaiva. He thinks his tefillah is worthy enough to be accepted by Shemayim. So what do? They dissect the tefillah, they rip it apart, and tefillah say the two nefes. Especially Kodesh, later Kodesh is supposed to be two nefes. It's torn apart, and it's found to be lacking. And actually, this person can say the tefillah is perfect, but if it comes to the tzibur, then there is an achnim, because tefillah is called a bit achnim, they cannot be a bit tzibur. There's the tzibur, there's bit achnim. There's no there's no deep investigation or looking into the tefillah, and it's the tzibur, and it's accepted b'chlal. Even the tefillah is chelbana, the shine is also accepted. Kol shekain, this applies to Shabbos Kodesh. Naturally, Shabbos Kodesh, the most important day of the week, time when every person, even the Amaratzim, come to shul to daven then. So surely a person who davens the Yachidus Achman Lasman, that person is Lady Kodesh every week. Hated the entire day. But in this Vayamuna, during the week after davening, you're not Yetzer, even with Tefillah and Tzibur. You must have, before you walk out, you must first learn Torah. And as Knei, there must be Torah coupled with Tefillah. You're not Yetzer with Tefillah alone. You must have Torah. Then you may first go to business. What about on Shabbos Kodesh where there's no business? Then the Gemara says that a person who is a worker all week, a businessman, a tradesman, who goes to work all week, leaves shul and spends just a few minutes time on learning Torah, Ikar, he spends the whole day in business on work, that person owes a debt. He owes the Teda Kadesha a debt. And that debt must be paid off on Shabbos Kodesh. So on Shabbos Kodesh, after davening, he's allowed to eat. It must be a part of Lachem on Shabbos too. Eat, enjoy the meal. It's a big mitzvah to eat on Shabbos Kodesh. But after eating, he should set aside to be Keveya, the Shabbos Kodesh, L'Shem Mitzvahs on the Teda. Shabbos Kodesh was created by Hashem. For what reason? Medrash says just for that reason itself. Shabbos was created by Hashem. Why? For the sake of those Jews who cannot study Torah during the week, they should study Torah on Shabbos Kodesh. We have the Tam, the mitzvah with the Tam behind it. Because Hashem rested worked 6 days a week, and then the 7th day he rested, therefore we keep the Shabbos. Why? Why wasn't it done otherwise? This is the reason. The whole thing is audacious because when Torah Hashem created the world, the Jews should learn Torah, and be kind of the Torah. And this chiyuv specifically, especially for those who work all week, is an absolute chiyuv, increase to spend the Shabbos Kodesh on the Limud Torah. Those people who spend the whole week of learning Torah, then there's a difference. In Shabbos Kodesh, they are allowed to also relax, to spend a period of time for a nap, take a nap on Shabbos, to rest. And of course, they too are required to learn Torah. Even those who learn the kiruv all day, all night, it's the Tikuney Zohar island. And R Nosson are also required to learn Torah on Shabbos, but they do not have the solid requirement, the amount of time as balabatim do, as workers do. So that's why the Machas Binyamin, what brings the Shema Arizal on Shabbos Kodesh says would sleep a few hours. Sleep 2 hours on Shabbos afternoon. And that sleep on Shabbos afternoon was a special kind of a sleep. It's a very big mitzvah. Of course, it's brought in the period time that Arizal said that in those 2 hours Neshama went to heaven and he learned depth, Torah, such depth that it would take him many, many years, 80 years, he said, once to repeat one shir he learned in Hashemayim during those 2 hours of sleep. So of course the Arizal's sleep was one that was also concentrated on Torah. It wasn't sleep, it was learning Torah. Still, there are many people today who say that Arizal was night, asleep in the afternoon, meaning that Arizal is Torah, Kodesh Chodeshim, so that means they cannot deviate from that minute, you must sleep in the afternoon. Achos Yamis says, these people who take the Arizal's meaning so seriously, why they should take the Arizal's other than Hagen. Arizal, the Shemina Shodom, writes, Arizal writes, the forward to get to the Arizal, are all the meanest favors you can imagine. First of all, not being about the Torah for one moment. Second, never to say one single word of devoted B'Telem. Now speaking about Lashon Hara, devoted B'Telem, not to allow his mouth to say one word that's not Kedusha. Third, never to ever fall into kas. Never to allow 1 degree of kas ever to penetrate into his heart. And fourth, never to say anything against another Jew, because he couldn't. But even in the Torah, Shetel, to say something against that too should not be said. And fifth, to perfect every one of the Mason by abstaining from all types of tivus and Elam Hazeh, all types of pleasure. These are the Hagi Arizal. So Menachem, don't pick out one about going to sleep. You want to follow Arizal, follow all these Menachem Mendel. We should be zeichet to take the B'dei Hayoshe V'Atayv. It is to be mekashen ourselves to the Torah Kedusha and to Tefillah. This combination, Torah and Tefillah. Tefillah, dafka b'tzibur, big dafka, no compromise on that, ever. Every day of a person's life, Tefillah b'tzibur. A Jew can never get up late in the morning and say he missed a minyan. That should not ever happen. Not in this world. Mason Chafshi, the person goes there, and in the grave he can sleep late for the minyan, past the minyan. But while he's alive, never to ever miss Tefillah b'tzibur in his whole lifetime. And to couple that with the study of Torah, and to do everything possible to make the Torah a ikar in his life, and the rest, the Nashama should be already. That's a chus, he's zeichet to his charav and Abba, he's zeichet to his chayinam, to see with our eyes he comes to share the kingdom, in your Beis HaMikdash, where the tzir takes the Torah and Torah. Shabbos, The tefillas, mincha, and Shabbos. At mincha we say Ashrei Avodatim. Of course, we first say Korbanos. We first should know that within the Chalal that we say Korbanos every day for mincha too. That's in order to be able to say the potatoes 3 times a day. With that, it's also because from Talmud shall ben ha'aboyin. We say Korbanos potatoes before Ashrei Avodatim, then we say Ashrei Avodatim. Note that on Shabbos and Yom Tov, of course, different. Because every day, weekdays, we say the Avodatim in the morning, whereas on Mincha we say it in the afternoon. What is? On Shabbos say it before Mincha, in the afternoon. The reason is, note that how the Beit HaMikdash has consideration for the Jew, to see that the Shabbos is one of pleasure. Well, it takes a long time to say as evidenced by the middle week of how long it takes to say it. Yet, despite this fact, the length of it, the din is that we want a Jew to have Hanoah Shabbos morning. Not to be kept, not to be delayed too long in shul. They go home and eat. You can't keep a child in school too long, because the urge to get out spoils his desire to learn. So you don't keep him long, you release him. Keep Jews in the morning on Shabbos, that won't have to say it. Well, let's see, that would delay them to a point where they would feel there's a restriction. Don't get the pleasure of eating early enough. So in consideration for that, Achmanis, great pity, passion for a Jew's appetite, we move the Volotzian up to Mincha after a Jew has already eaten. This is the reason why we say Volotzian to the same thing, of course, in Yom Tov. We have to eat that much earlier. Again, it shows how strongly the din feels against these big shuls with the big chazon. Big chazanah for Shabbos and Yom Tov, and they keep people in shul. Sometimes they can actually fast. They go past the din of kindness on Shabbos. You're not allowed to fast till the afternoon. The chatzos to midday. The chazan, the dabbers, long, shows off his voice, his great cantorial talent. Meanwhile, it's causing every Jew in shul to fast till midday. Those shuls, the people don't wait. Come in the morning, prepare for the chazan. After Volotzian, Chazan says Chatzi Kaddish, F Kaddish. Then we say the posek Banis Vilotzi L'cha Hashem Beisot. At that point, the Chazan puts on the talis. Many shuls, of course, but the Chazan puts on the talis and goes to the Yemen. But our minhag is very strictly. Many shuls, Rav of Breslov, many of the Chazan is not put on the talis until after he says the Ashrei Avodatim and the Kaddish. The reason is Banis Vilotzi L'cha Hashem Beisot. Banis Vilotzi. Banis Vilotzi means that no, I can't do the tefillah. The posek says tefillah the onim chiyatayv. Posek in Tilma onim says tefillah the yatayv, when he wraps himself around the talis, becomes completely absorbed and engrossed in his tefillah with the talis wrapping himself in the talis. Therefore, it fits talis that at that point the chazan should wrap himself in the talis. Yishbizochet to Shmiras Shabbos v'Yemes v'Choso, tefillah should become a skabel. Therefore, all together we go to Arizal, we ask Mashiach Kino, Ashal, Ashtal. That's Shabbos, Tchilas Mincha Shabbos. As we said, the minhag Hasidim is that you say Ashrei Avodatim first, then you put on Chatzi Kaddish, and then put on the talis. The Chazan puts on the talis after Chatzi Kaddish. And it says, Vanis Filosi, it goes to the present Tefillah Leoni Chiyatayv, the Tifas HaTalis. That is especially by Mincha of Shabbos. Now, the reason that we say that posek Vanis Filasi L'Chol Hashem Eis Rotzon, Vanis Filasi L'Chol Hashem Eis Rotzon. We once went into the Gimatriyos, the Kabbalah, but Hashtius. Hashtius say that posek Tintilin. I am different than the Habdul Goyim. Habdul Ben Yisrael Amen. Because the Goyim, when they are given an opportunity to eat, drink, and make merry, they roll in the gutters drunk. If they have to come to a serious assembly after their feast, there's nobody there. Never was there before either. Here, the Shuli, instead of being plain behemoths, they're drunk highest. Whereas the Habdil Va'ani, Sulasi L'cha Hashem, after you told me, Hashem, that the mitzvah of a Sudas Shabbos, Bosa the Dogim L'chom Hadamin, and the Dafka Yayin L'Kiddush, the Dafka has to be Yayin. And Yayin B'chal, Michnas Yayin Yotza Soid, despite this, Eis V'Yotza Hashem, Eis V'Yotza, I come before you, very much sober, very much serious sense, is followed here at this time of Mincha. Why? Because Eis Ratzon. This is a time of Ratzon, a time which is the most important part of the entire Shabbos. 3 parts of Shabbos are Friday night, which is called Chakal Tapuchim Kadishin, which means the Malchus, the Malka. Say, Bay Chala. Chala arrives Friday night. Chala comes in first. That's the Seder of the Chokah. Chala, the Malka, comes in first. Therefore we say, V'yanuchu Vo. Vo, that's the Nukva. The Chala is called the Malchus. That's the last Seder, the last one we go in the Klum. It's called Chakal Tapuchim Kadishin. Really what it says, Chakal, we explain many times. Again, the Gematria, the Shemis, the Ichud, Shemis, Tapuchim Kadishin, because Tapuach, really what it says, contains the cabinet, the heated, different colors, which means different spheres. That's the chavruta merged to make up the color, the beauty of the color. In the morning, we have Atika Kadisha, who is the father of Yaakov, father of the Abba, father of the first color. The head is the Yud, the Hashem's name, Chachma. And therefore we say, V'nechu V'y. V'y, it's Kiruv Zohar, Suda the Atika Kadisha. It's Chachma, it's Keser, it's above. The Kadisha actually is Keser, it's above. This Chassid color, when it supervises Kaviyachol, this Yichud of Chassid color. Mincha time, that's the greatest Eis Ratzon. The biggest Ratzon is Kaviyachol, there's a Yichud Lamala, just like Chas V'Shalom, Shechita Begelusa. The Shechina leaves, goes into Golus. The Shechina leaves Ba'ala, he goes into Golus, there is Chas V'Shalom, Aharon Aharon Af, the Gematria Moshe. This Aharon Af, which only the tzadik can overcome, so too, when there is a yichud, when the Shekhinah is a shafed in Ba'ala, which is the time of Mincha, the greatest Eis Ratzon, Ratzon is B'gematria Aharon Af, with the Kilo. It means that there is covering and extinguishing of this fire. Because of the Kedusha of that moment at Mincha, the Eis Ratzon. Therefore, first, we lay in the Torah Shabbos to Mincha. Laying in the Torah Shabbos to Mincha. Just 3 Eilim, Kalim, Levi, Israel. His name is Keli. To make it Keli Shleimo, you have to have his name. These 3 Aliyahs actually are only, should be, 10 psukim or more. The minimum they quote is 10 psukim. While the Gemara says that these 10 psukim, who is the most chashuv of the 10? Looks like it's the Gemara. It's the Levi, it should be 3 psukim, 4 and 3. And there are some who do that. We, of course, read Sheni, God's only Torah. There are always at least 10 and more psukim to Sheni. In fact, there is never ever a time of the year when there are less than 10 psukim, except Parshas Amalek, 9%. No time ever in the year is less than 10 seconds of silence. So the shadow which is the more cautious, it's like the Levi should be 3, 4, maybe because always when the Rav, the Emsa, the Chacham walks, he has two with him, and he's always in the center. The Halacha became Babylon Mina. Halacha Chasha was in the middle. Some say that the last one, Nachman covered, there is a sphere, this minig sphere, to have Kiruv Torah with 3. What is the reason for this minig? So they say, Pektonas, Ezra Sefer. Ezra Sefer is Misakim, that you know that you're supposed to have, the Gemara says that Midbar of Misakim should not have 3 days go by without hearing the day later. Therefore we have Monday, Thursday, and Shabbos, Kiruv Torah. However, it's enough Monday, Thursday, and Shabbos, morning. What is the Shabbos Mincha for? Ezra Sefer is Misakim. Since there are Yeshua communists, people who live in villages, and people who live in stores, and people who can't come to shul, they're busy, they're Christians, whatever. So for their sake, they will not be able to come during the week. The minyan, Chas v'Chalila, we say Chas v'Chalila many times, because the way they Kodesh says that every time a person misses the Baruch, a Kaddish, Eishmeid Abba, there's a Chedim for it, that would be a chidus, he's 3 times that person put in chidus. But, say in these extenuating circumstances, so-called, this person lives out of town, he cannot get to a big city for the Tefillah B'tzibur, so he cannot get there except on Shabbos when they get together in the village to have a meal. Therefore, because of the fact he's going to miss the Kriyas HaTorah, Monday and Thursday, as I said from the second, at least let them have a taste of it by having it at Shabbos to Mincha, and they still are, or some will forget it. That's the reason for the Kriyas HaTorah on Shabbos to Mincha, which does not mean that a person should be Yaakov to say, I come to Kriyas HaTorah Monday and Thursday. It's not made for me. It is made for you. Aliyah Kodesh, Arizal says that of course it's made. Rosenfeld brings too, that the whole union of Kriyas HaTorah, the union of the Shemavaya B'Ribua, Yud, K, Yaakov K, this deals with, when we advancing on and on, show the completion of the Shemavaya. First, Yud alone, that's the Kriyas HaTorah, on Shabbos to Mincha. Yud K, the Kriyas HaTorah on Monday. Yud K Vav on Thursday. Yud K Vav K complete. You go back again, always going back. You do Aharon. Go back and start again. You started. What are you going back for? That's Aharon, to complete, to add to it. So by Shabbos we finish. If a person has no chachma, if he doesn't come to Shabbos Mincha to hear the Kisneh, that's a good sense of chachma. This is the reason why we have Kriyas HaTorah for Mincha. Now, we also have the Sukkim Tzidkoscha, Greek Sukkim Tzidkoscha said after Shemon Esrei. These 3 Sukkim, if you note, are not said in case that day would be a weekday. There'd be no Tachman said on that day, you don't say Tzidkoscha either. For example, that day is the Shchedesh. Shabbos is Shchedesh. If it's a weekday, you have no Tachman. Or if that day is Erev Shchedesh. If Sunday is Shchedesh, Erev Shchedesh to Mincha, there's no Tachman said either. Or if it's a special day, Chalav, Hanukkah and so forth, there's no Tachman said, you cannot say Tzidkoscha. Why? Because Tzidkoscha is a tzadik kadin. Tzidkoscha refers to a eulogy. It said, tzadik kadin means that when somebody is nostalgic, somebody is niftar, I would say, tzadik kadin, Hashem, tzadik Hashem, Hashem Dayan Emes, we must speak to them. We accept the judgment of heaven, Hashem Nosson, Hashem Lokach, Hashem gave, Hashem took, Yameir, Barnes, his 2 sons died. This is a gift from heaven, it's a loan. He had 2 children, 2 sons, 2 eyes, they were the apples of his eye. And he said that this is a loan from heaven. Hashem was kind enough to lend me these 2 sons for a while. I appreciate the length of time I had them. Hashem now, tzadik adin. If much thinking that Hashem is sorry. 3 times in Kosva, also, again, for the 3 tzadikim for the stalik at this Eis Ratzon. 3 tzadikim were Moshe Rabbeinu, Yosef HaTzadik, David HaMelech. These 3 were the stalik at this Eis Ratzon. First, what is the greatest Ratzon? When he's Filossi, Tefillah. The biggest Nisha, the biggest Mitzvah of Ratzon, which can create the Ratzon Le'elov, is Tefillah. You see this in Moshe, Yosef, David, the Gematria Tefillah, exactly. This is basically the Ratzon Mashamayim. The biggest Eis Ratzon at the time when a person's Tefillah to be accepted is this time. Why? Because there was a Halacha and a Yaakov covered Shemayim. The tzadik is nostalgic, it's a real Yaakov for the Shechita. Therefore it's Eis Ratzon. We who are here, we mourn the Istalkas of these tzadikim. So we say in Koska, brief second in Koska, 1 referring to Moshe Rabbeinu, 1 to Yosef HaTzadik, 1 to David HaMelech. The reason, because there is a very Kodesh brings it. Yosef Arizal brings us machlekes between the Sfardim and Ashkenazim. I'm not speaking about Sfardim. Speaking about Nusach Sfard, Nusach Ashkenaz, where the Nusach are both exactly contrary, opposite of each other. Nusach Sfard, we say to Kosko V'Harei Keil, they would say to Kosko V'Kilma. When we say to Kosko V'Tzedek, that's famous. Ashkenazim say the opposite. Start with Kosko V'Tzedek, that's famous. Some people say the reason they say the opposite was they are Nisnagdim. Nisnagid is Nisnagid. Of course, Chassidut, Sfardim say this way, that's why they have to say the opposite. Nisnagid has to go against. However, actually it's not so. Not that reverse. They have their reasons. You notice, the posek Lekeil, which refers to, as Eric says, is Chesed, Nusach Chesed. It's in Kosta, the second posek, refers to Midas Chavruta, Din. Third, sometimes goes for MS. MS is feeding him as the Yaakov, is the face. These 3 psukim are simply in order, Chesed, people get the face. This is the reason why we say in this order. Ashkenazim say we start from the top. We start with Tiferes, Yom Malo Lamata. There's a reason for that too, a logic for that also. The question when you go from Mata Lamalo, or Lamalo Lamata, which of course, like we said, which both of course are Emes Lamita. That's why we say Keser. Why is Keser called Chaf? Chaf is 20. Malo Lamata and Keser to Malchus. Malchus to Keser, a round trip is 20. Here too, the shadow is where do you start from? You start from the top, go down, you start from the bottom, you go. That's the simple machlekes between the Sfardim and Ashkenazim. Long way they were. Now, as we said, this is not said on a day when Tachma is not said. Actually, there is a day of what Rishonim, that Kosva, the Chlal, is a tzadik hadid. So how can you say you need matzdik hadid for these 3 great tzadikim? It's difficult to say that, but you say Hashem HaTzadik because He took away from us Moshe Rabbeinu Yosef HaTzadik and God HaMelech. What's Shai Tzadik hadid there? Even as a person loses somebody, today, Chas v'Shalom, he says tzadik hadid. At the funeral, at the cemetery, before the burial, they say tzadik hadid. What is Shai Tzadik hadid for these tzadikim? Therefore, these shouldn't say that it's true. It's a time of Estalkus. It's an Eis Ratzon. Right. Tzadik is nostalgic. It's a machata for the Rabbeinu Yisrael. But why say Tzadik hadid? Because of the fact that there is a Misa, a Petita, right, taking place at that moment. During Shabbos Kodesh, the Shamas of the Nishan, who are in Gehenna all week, are taken out of Gehenna and put into Benedict. At this moment, Shabbos comes to an end. There is beginning already. One of the son of these was showing that the Shem is going back to Gehenna. Teshuva the Shem. That's we say tzadik hadid. It's a sad tefillah of Tikuney, all these Rishonim go back together. That's the reason for it's a posek. Of course, the minig element is this is important to know. Twice in the Shchodesh there is Svida. They bench the Shchodesh Iyar, they bench the Shchodesh Sivan. Din says, clearly, that these two, Din says, it's the fact is Din, but if you look carefully and see, Halacha, the very place is that R Avraham said, he said on these two Shabbos and Moed. The Chiddush is, for instance, some want to say that Rav Nachman was the same as Tachnun. If on that day it would have been, if it had been a weekday, we know Tachnun said that day. They did not say Rav Nachman. Tachnun is not said the whole month of Nisan. Mention Shchodesh Iyar while it's still Nisan. Chiddush is then that no, it is a Shchodesh mention. Though it is still Nisan, we do say Rav Nachman because the mourning over the tzadikim, reading the Kiva, is that great that it supersedes, overrules the other items, and we do say Rav Nachman. Not afterwards in Shchodesh Sivan, mentioning the Shchodesh Sivan, that too is already in a holiday. Shchodesh Sivan, the month of Shavuos. Despite this, since we are still counting Svida, and it's not in Shchodesh Sivan yet, so we do say Rav Nachman. Well, the third controversial one, to make this clear, those two Shabbos and Melech, we say Rav Nachman, no other one, period. There is one which is on the fire, and that's Shabbos Melech and the Shchodesh Av. Since the Shchodesh Av is a sad beginning of the 9 days, there are some, in fact even in the city, you see where it says in the Shabbos and the Shchodesh Av, we say Rav Nachman, which is
let's say 3 times with Shabbos and Zaliyuti, Shchodesh, or
the Shchodesh benching, Shabbos Melech and HaKodesh. When you bench the Shchodesh, you do not say Rav Nachman except 2 months of the year. That's when we count the Eimer. The Shchodesh Iyar and the Shchodesh Sivan. Shchodesh Sivan is understood. The Shchodesh Iyar is a kiddush because there are some who say that since you do not say Tachnun, the month of Nisan, should not say Rav Nachman then too. However, because this is Rav Nachman is a tefillah for those who bear on Kiddush Hashem, who start the tzadikim. Therefore, despite the fact that it is the month of Nisan, plus the fact that it's Shchodesh benching, you still say Rav Nachman. The whole other months of the year, like the Shchodesh Av, for instance, there are some who say you don't say it then, but we absolutely don't say you do say it then, but absolutely do not say it then. Do not say Rav Nachman when the Shchodesh benching except the Shchodesh Iyar. Do not say Rav Nachman whenever there is a yontiv of importance, to a degree. For instance, it's Shabbos, it's Tu B'Shvat. You don't say Rav Nachman. Or if it's Tu B'Av, Rishos B'Av, or Yom Tov Yisrael. Or if it is Shabbos between Yom Kippur and Sukkot. Kippur and Sukkot also, that is in the month of Tishrei, and as the days after Sukkot, is considered, the balance of fish is considered yontiv. We don't say Rav Nachman that these are the days of the year. Shabbos of the year, and this should logically avoid any kind of controversy. It's a pity that, despite the clarity, it's not simple and clear. It's reserved to have Shalom Al Yisrael. And Shabbos, the mitzvah of proclaiming Kabbalah Shabbos is the Kiddush. There are two kinds of Kiddush. There's Kiddush b'tfilah. You say, Baruch atah Hashem Kaddish HaShabbos. There's a Kiddush ala yain. Kiddush on wine, which is also Kiddush Kaddish HaShabbos. And Shabbos, even if this is Midrash, it's Kiddush on wine. Shabbos, these certainly is an absolute mitzvah. However, Kiddush on wine, we Kiddush is Friday night. That's when you are receiving the Baal Shabbos. Receiving the Shabbos. Shabbos begins a unit with a bracha on wine, the Kaddish HaShabbos. However, there is another Kiddush in the morning. Kiddush again in the morning. Just as we say that Friday night Kiddush is such, nobody, under any conditions, is allowed to eat before Kiddush. They are not permitted to eat anything, taste anything. No one argues even about water. You not taste water before Kiddush Friday night. Once you daven, in fact, what's proper is that once the candles are lit, which means no eating whatsoever until after Kiddush. Once the candles lit, there is already the order of Shabbos. Food is on this will only after Kiddush. Surely, also, surely holiday is no question about it, no suffering after you daven manna. And you're bound to it. Wait until Kiddush before you can eat anything. Therefore, it is very sad, pitiful that there are places in the world where people eat papitas, the polyseeds, customs in many places where they have polyseeds eaten. You see people going to shul Friday night, carrying these polyseeds in the street, and eat them, they chew them in the street, and then in the shul, and on the shul floor, and you have this place. It's solid carpet out of these seed shells. However, the fact that they neglect to clean it up or that they care is one thing, but this shows that too they forget. They don't realize that unconsciously they're doing something very wrong. It becomes a matter of habit, subconscious reflex action. They take the seeds out and eat them, they forget that this is already time of Easter to eat. You can't eat after davening, even going to shul. You're bound by the Shabbos tradition. You have to wait for Kiddush and wait to eat. The same thing before Kiddush you cannot eat, whether it's Friday night or whether it is Shabbos morning. Shabbos morning, of course, you cannot eat because it's before davening. You cannot eat in the morning, drink water in the morning, so that's understood that then too, Kiddush is a necessity. Before you can eat anything, you must have Kiddush, but you also must have davening. You cannot say that you make Kiddush in the morning before davening Shachris, as some people do. They say, fine, Kiddush is Kiddush. They make Kiddush, they sit down to a meal, to a snack, or to anything before going to shul to davening, which is very wrong, because you must have both. Before davening, never can you eat or drink. After davening, during the week, fine. On Shabbos, you must have Kiddush first, then you eat. Now, the Shabbos Kiddush is called Kiddush Rabba, which means a great Kiddush. A great Kiddush. Why is it called a great Kiddush? Because it's Kolosh of Saginoha. We don't want to hurt anybody's Kiddush on Shabbos morning. So we give it a fancy name, a great Kiddush. The real Kiddush is Friday night. Or the person, let's say, did not get a chance to make Kiddush Friday night. Of course, he has to make up for it Shabbos morning to say the long Kiddush. But if he already said the Kiddush, long Kiddush Friday night, Shabbos morning, the whole Kiddush consists of a bracha, ready for Yaakov, aside from a few psukim before it. So, because it's so short a Kiddush, therefore, it's called big Kiddush, big deal Kiddush, to appease him. It's very important to note, maybe we've done so before, that there are some people who start the Kiddush with the words Al Kei Bayach Hashem Shem HaShabbos V'Hakadshehu. This is a very sad mistake. Kamala says those who do that are committing another crime. It is forbidden to ever quote a half posek. You cannot quote a posek out of context, half of it. Of course you can quote, but if you use the posek, that is wrong. Here, it's right in the middle of the posek. Therefore, people don't realize that this is where the one who says Kiddush starts saying that loud. But himself, he must say the first half of the posek. So you can't make Kiddush at home. He's saying that, remember to start with the beginning of that posek, which is mentioned in the Siddur. Of course, the posek is in the Chumash. So it's in the Siddur. And you find that in the Siddur, Tikuney Zohar, that is a very vital point, one that should be remembered. Of course, there are cases, some rare cases really, but we start to deal with pasuk like Friday night for Arizal. Friday night we say, Shishi, of course, my waters, also long. Shishi, the beginning of the pasuk. Why do we start with the pasuk there? First of all, we want to combine, we want the words Yom HaShishi. The last words of that pasuk combined with the two words of the next pasuk, Chulu Hashemayim. Yom HaShishi by Chulu Hashemayim, Yud Vav Tei. That's the case. Why don't we start with Yom HaShishi? Why are we ending like that? The answer is because that would not make sense. It's just Yom HaShishi. Yom HaShishi by Chulu Hashemayim doesn't make sense. This lady's taken. Why don't we go back further? Because of the drasha that we heard is the Menachem Mendel Schneerson. Friday night, Schneerson, Shlitin, Chalaksin, all the Klippas and Shagan and Tumas are silent, they're muted. They don't want to mention the part about the Menachem Mendel Schneerson, Reish Menachem Mendel Schneerson. Like in this question, Teviyot Menachem Mendel Schneerson. Then we have to admit to omit that half of the pasuk. Otherwise, we cannot say I have a pasuk, and that's why in the morning, but you should be careful to say the Kiddush from starting from the right pasuk, starting from the beginning of the pasuk, and then out loud I'll do that. Now this is the din of Shabbos morning. Oh, we already had Kiddush at night. We must have Kiddush again Shabbos morning. And of course the question would be why? Isn't it enough that you made Kiddush and proclaimed the Shabbos finish? The answer is that there's something more to it. This cup of wine, special cup of wine that has the Kedusha, as a symbol of the Kedusha of Shabbos. There are two mitzvahs on Shabbos which are very much related. They might not sound so, but they're very much related. The mitzvah of Lacha Mishnah. Lacha Mishnah is a field for every single meal. You must have two chalas. Because the Shabbos there was Friday of Lacha Mishnah, double the amount in 2 days. Shabbos was covered by the Lacha Mishnah, therefore, memory of that, memory too of the Lacha, it's a big question. Memory that we have, Lacha Mishnah, two chalas on Shabbos. Change the chalas, especially the Shabbos. These two chalas is a halacha for every single meal. It's a chiyuv to eat 3 meals on Shabbos, Friday night, Shabbos morning, and Shabbos Shabbos. Shabbos Shabbos, you cannot be lax in the good of Lacha Mishnah. You must have Lacha Mishnah there too. You must have two chalas, because that is the chiyuv of a suda on Shabbos. The din is so strict, since the Gemara says that both men and women are equal when it comes to the laws of Shabbos. Not like a different yom where mitzvah which is bound by time, they are exempt. Mitzvah of Sukkah, we are exempt because there's a specified time for it. Shabbos, though Shabbos is a really specified time, it's completely guided by the time itself. It's not Grama, 7th day is Shabbos. Like that, this is one case women are equal to men 100%. Because mitzvah saseh, positive mitzvah, which is guided by time, that one women are exempt from. This mitzvah saseh, but not desecrate the Shabbos, where women have this saseh too, and they are automatically included in all the mitzvahs. That's also. So mitzvah, any mitzvah we have there, mitzvah Lacha Mishnah, Kiddush, Kais Yain, they too are included. Now, Arizal says, here goes this that case then. we say that they're both similar, Kais Yain and Lechem Mishnah, you should have Kais Yain or Kiddush or Shalosh Shudas. You should make Kiddush Shalosh Shudas too. If they are all the same, and are they the same? Of course they're the same. You should have both. They are both the same symbol. First of all, Kais Yain, and you're not the Lechem Mishnah. So it's supposed to go in the same category. They both represent the union of the tzadik Yesod. Tzadik Yesod, because Yesod is the sixth Sfira, which means 6 times Hashem Hashem. And that's what Lechem Mishnah. If you're not there 6 times, Hashem Hashem. Lechem Mishnah means twice. Twice. The word Lechem, if you're not there 6 times the word Hashem, Lechem is 3 times the word Hashem. Kais Yain, it's also exactly not there 6 times Hashem Hashem. In other words, Kais Yain, not there twice Lechem. Mishnah means twice. Twice Lechem, and not there Kais Yain. Now, since we say that they are the same, that they are both Mechinas Tzadik Yesod, they are both similar, go along with each other, why then should we not have Kiddush or Shalosh Shudas? Same as you have for Friday night, Shabbos morning, Mishnah should have Kiddush that morning. What's the answer? Could a person find an answer for a question like that? Well, the answer is, Arizal says, right, there is Kiddush, Shalosh Shudas. You're supposed to make Kiddush or Shalosh Shudas. What other answer can you give? So Al-Pi Kabbalah is that there is Kiddush on Shalosh Shudas. If you will look at the Siddur too, in the Siddur, between us, Shalosh Shudas, you'll see the Kiddush there. Right? In the middle of the says Kiddush. But if they are nothing. So how big though, we do not make Kiddush Friday on Shabbos. So the Shalosh Shudas, because we eat the Shalosh Shudas late. The person will eat Shalosh Shudas early afternoon, then we would possibly take it on that night. Since we Shalosh Shudas late, that we'll have the Halacha of Shalosh Shudas a little different. So the meaning of Olam is not to make Kiddush for Shalosh Shudas, not to drink wine for Shalosh Shudas. Why are you drinking wine for Bracha? It's a separate topic in itself. But it's important to note that this is meaning definitely is not to drink wine either middle of the meal for Kiddush or after the meal for Fesha Bracha, in case they finish with a kais. Except if you have a chassid, then a chassid is the only one I want to drink during Fesha Bracha. However, the dinner of Lechem Mishnah still applies to Shalosh Shudas as well as it does to the other meals. Despite the fact that there are some people who use the word Bekil, Zalzer. They kill that or they belittle. Belittle, they defile. They give you the Shalosh Shudas, which is so great, it's a topic in itself. To understand how a person should be very careful in that mitzvah. But this Lechem Mishnah is so important that if a person decides to eat more than Shalosh Shudas, which means that he ate 4 meals that day, ate the morning's meal, then 2 hours later he became hungry, you want to eat again. Shalosh Shudas is 6 o'clock. And now, he ate the first meal, he got off the shul early, at about 10 o'clock. At 12 o'clock he's hungry again. 1 o'clock he's hungry again. He wants to go to eat, to wash. The thing is that this is an extra meal. You can have 3 meals anyhow, Shalosh Shudas. This extra meal, you can have a meal, you must have Lechem Mishnah. You don't eat a meal on Shabbos without Lechem Mishnah. If a person is blessed, he's endowed with an unusual appetite, every hour of the hour, as the kaku comes out, he washes. Every one of those meals, he must wash and eat Lechem Mishnah. This is the mitzvah of the Suda Shabbos. There's a meaning of Chaber Yisoid Malchus, it's the Shabbos Spanish, which is referred to Ashlim ourselves with this Yisoid Malchus. We can cover ourselves with Avo, the Buddha Shleiman Yisoid Tzadik, and the cover Malchus Shemayim by the Buddha Shleiman Hashem, which we are Shabbos Spanish to Chosam. Basically, there's over to say, you should play Shabbos like this, which is okay, Shabbos. The thing is that every day, the Gemara says every day a person should be diet, very careful to say 100 brachas. Cook brachas before you. Middle of the week. It's not too difficult because you have 3 times for this year alone, 57 brachas. Benching brachas in the morning, so a person has really no difficulty at all. However, on Shabbos, when you have only 7 brachas instead of 19, 21 instead of 57, you're missing so many. How can a person make up for those brachas? So the thing says that a person should, Rav says a person should eat delicacies every once in a while to make a bracha and so on. Also, a special kavanas, Shema Kadosh to Mikra, this is a side item. Shema Kadosh disagrees with this whole concept. The whole Shema is still different answers, different solutions to this problem. How a person could find what came to 100 brachas during the day. Shema Kadosh says definitely not. There's no chiyuv whatsoever. It's impossible, it's impossible. 100 brachas is not referred to Shabbos. Therefore, he says the person should go out of his way to make what he finds is brachas Torah. The person doesn't want to eat something, he eats it. He walks away, comes back, eats, makes another bracha. Because there are so many brachas Torah made, but better, a person should not strive for this number on Shabbos, because when you can't. I mean, it's a whole apartment. It's a little serious now. However, Shema does agree. As some place can say, if you could find the brachas, you can have the Eisa brachas. For instance, the Kriyas HaTorah, especially the brachas HaMaftir, brachas HaMaftir, the Chavruta the Eisa those brachas, then you get credit as well you said the Shmir Kaina, and those are added to your number. However, this of course means it's not just answering the Amen alone. In order to get that credit, you're not allowed to talk during the brachas HaMaftir. Maftir, Taylor starts saying the brachas, beginning to end, you're not allowed to mafsik at all. If you mafsik, you lose the credit for that bracha. This is what each person should be very much practical. Very much practical. This Machal, for different reasons, also is important. The person should listen very carefully to these brachas. Very deep reasons. Maftir. This is one of these sayings of the person who has Yatzai reads this for the second Yerushalmi. Of a Yerushalmi, he gets maftir. To say the whole these brachas, Sud Ka'amodim, is the same as Sidikadim. So, a person should be very careful to listen carefully to the brachas of maftir, and not to be mafsik beginning there. He has a number of credits. One he has these added on to this list of, a template list of 100, which could come in handy. To the Chalal, the brachas are so great, so important. Zechah to be the kind of mitzvah of answering the Chassidut. Third, during the Syrian Jewish, many times, Aharon is very good to say kitas. Shul walk to the side and start listening and talking. This is really bad because this is, we can use a Russian Zayid, but it's uses, but it's one was to require those kitas. Not during the time of the Maftir. Therefore, a person who learns to die to answer these brachas carefully. Now, about this whole topic of 100 brachas a day. This is a Gemara in Menachos, where it says, Chayu Adam Avarech, Ney Menachos B'chol. First is required to make the 100 Menachos every day. Say 100 Menachos. You know, based on the posek, Moa Hashem L'Ikech Hashem L'Imach, Im Liras. Moa Hashem L'Yosem. What does Hashem ask of you? I'll take a more Elameya. Who said, Moa said, Hashem asks you Meya, what are the brachas? How do we get 100? Why did this say, I'll take a more Elameya? What, right? Why not say, I'll take a more Elamasiah? They want better. What is it that should direct us to the word Meya instead of more? The answer is that there are reasons. Teshuva says a number of reasons. Teshuva says that at the Tikuney Zohar, Moa Hashem Shel Imach, Moa Hashem Sheya. What does Hashem ask? The word Sheya is spelled with a vav, with mullet. Spell share with a vav, you have an additional letter. There's one more letter possible there. You take the whole posek, Hashem, after you say Moshe, so we enter that posek, you'll find that there are 99 letters in that posek. Exactly. You say Hashem share with a vav, mullet. You spell with or without a vav. You spell it with or vav, you then have 100 letters in the posek, and that's a simon, or image in this posek that you have to have 100 brachas. Also, the Russian Moa Hashem Shel, thinking Moa Elameya, you can also use that same word. You need it, Meya, and an Aleph. Here, we'll have also 100 letters in the posek. And the total of Meya, I see, is the posek to teach us that there is a chiyuv of 100 brachas. This gives another answer, and again, being one of the unusual things which is the best thing, because we do research on it. I haven't found in Rocca, going back, Rocca professors. It's exactly the same word as the Zohar, it says. So there must be a Rocca going much further back for this, in Rocca. For Kabbalah HBP, Teshuva says, and exactly the same thing, it's very Kodesh, that Tikuney more Elameya, don't read the word, don't more read it Meya. Don't say more, take the atbash of more. Atbash means that you switch. The first aleph is switched from the taf, first letter is switched from the second letter, the first letter is switched from the last letter of the aleph base, the second is switched from the second to the last, the third is switched from the third to the last, and so on. At, bash, gad, dak, at, vav, zah, chas, tan, yam, kol. That's the 22 letters in the aleph base. Close in, first to last, second to last, third to third, till you get to Yom Tov. So therefore, you take the word more, reverting, and it's closing these letters. Instead of then, Yom, you switch to the letter Yud. Instead of Hey, more is then Hey. Instead of more, you switch to the letter Yud and to the letter Shani. Yud and Shani, said, and Aidi is on. That's the third proof. Shakti Gemara, Tikuney Zohar Lameya, the word more itself makes 100. If you use this code of Atbash. Atbash, Aleph Tov, first to last, Bash, Beis, Shin, and so on. It says that there's another posek which brought Shiva Malas, you have it, which we prove also that there's 100 brachas. First we say 100 brachas. Posek is Kichen Yevorach Lever. Kichen Yevorach Lever. Person, so should a person say the bracha. Yerei Hashem. He who is a Yerei Hashem.